Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Leo. In this video we will check out what happened during the session that I prepped in the last video. So if you've seen the last video, which was I think it was called This is what 1 hour of prep looks like, you will see how I prepped a session for the game Symbaroum. And yeah, I actually did it in exactly 1 hour. Since I was talking to the camera, I had a bit, I lost a bit of time on that. So I took 10-15 minutes to just prepare some maps and tokens for Foundry. But all in all, it's pretty much 1 hour of prep. And I ran the session yesterday, Saturday. And of course, the PCs did not do what I thought they would do. For the most part, yes, but there was some unexpected events. And I just want to, as a quick return on the experience, talk about that with you. There is one other thing I want to talk about, which is, I guess it's a takeaway from the last session. There was an ending. Like, every session has a rhythm. You know, you get into the vibe, you maybe take a little break, come back, play again. And for a 4-hour session, as a GM, you want to create this gradual immersion that is getting better and better, and you want your players to get more and more involved, and hopefully you want some significant things to happen, at least before the end. Maybe a little climax before the end, maybe a little cliffhanger. It's just the basic laws of dramatic storytelling, of dramatics. You need to increase tension, increase momentum. Of course, this is a game, so you're not forced to do that. It's not obligatory in any way, but most DMs and GMs want to do that. So I'll tell you how I had to wing a big part of the end of the session to have this, something strong to finish the session off with. Before I start, I just want to say, please get cozy, get comfy. My English is not my first language, so maybe you want to speed up this video to 1.25 or 1.5. I'll do my best to be as concise as possible, but I'm riffing and jamming with you guys, so please be considerate of that. I'm not reading a script or anything. Okay, so first things first, I think that I'd like to show you. I'll have a little drink of my good Obelix cup. Let's jump right in. I'll show you the notes that I had. So these were my notes. Starts like this. This here is a Tarangal, a character that they could meet on an island to try to cross a river that they needed to cross. You really need to watch the previous video to understand what's going on here, but you could stop and read also if you want. But basically, the PCs in this session are fleeing the Rangers of the Queen. They have not kidnapped, but they have borrowed a man that they need to get to this mysterious magical island in the middle of an enormous lake. But to get there, they need to. They were on the run and in the forest, and they need to cross a big river, and then get to a village to hire a boat, and then go with the boat to another village, a barbarian village, and find a witch that the man that they have with them, Barto, knows. And this witch knows how to get to the magical island. And then they need to get on a boat again and go to the magical island. I was hoping to get all of that in this session, and hopefully have them on the island by the end of the session, maybe even start exploring a bit. So, because I wanted to accelerate the rhythm. So that was my goal, and I had prepared the opener in the delta, in the swamps of the delta, near the river that they need to cross. There's this character, old Tarangal, this guy, who can help them to cross with this boat. And then they get to this village here, and then they cross the lake, the big lake, to get to the barbarian village, and then nothing else. I just knew, because this character that they have with them is friend with that witch, so I knew that they will get want to get to this witch. So that's what I had in mind. But I hadn't prepped it because I don't know why. I thought, well, first of all, what I wanted to do was keep it really simple once they get there. So, make it fast. So what? Yeah. So I had just prepared that they might learn how to get on the island by Old Tarangol, and then that they would just convince the captain that they're with to bring them to the magical island. But they didn't do that. They didn't do as I planned, of course. So let's just go see the forge project that I have. And let me see. I put it there. It is. Okay, so let's go in the forge. I need to go here. I'll just so this is our little calendar that we like. Let me just be in the I have to be in this little square, so I can't move too much. And as you see, I'm a pretty animated speaker. Okay, so we've got the little calendar. This is our date, 20th of Varian. Varian is the month of May. And when everything started, I started them off in the Delta. So I just used this image. This is my party. This is the character that they have with them. And I have, one big thing that happened just before this session started. A character of mine, well, he has the power. It's a ritual, a theurg ritual called Oracle. So he can ask once per adventure a question to the gods, to Prios, the god of light. And of course he asked the big question. And big spoilers here, of course, if you're playing this campaign, the Throne of Thorns, for this game here, Symbaroum, of course, you have to stop watching because it's going to spoil a lot for you. But what this goblin priest asked of Prios, he said, "For the good of the kingdom and for the harmony of all the peoples, is it a good thing to follow Elmendra and find Symbar?" That's like a huge question, and it's like the main goal of this whole campaign. So of course I needed a way to urge them on without spoiling anything, and so I wrote a text that I will post in the comments later. Right now I could show you. Let me just check. I'll just cut here and find it and come back. Okay, so I'm cutting. This is my move for cutting, and I'm back. So let's go. I found this document that I made. It's called the Oracle, of course. I put that on the Discord for the players before we started the game, and it's a very long vision. That's the answer of Prios. So there's text like this. It's in French right now. I'll translate it in English and share it with all of you. But as you can see, it's pretty long. And I guess we can exchange about this either on Discord or in the comments of this video, because there's a lot in there. What can I say? Let's say that I know that the player, this goblin player, says that he's an alchemist and he likes picking plants, rare plants, and doing potions and stuff. And so that's why the first visions that I described here is the forest darkening and the plants withering, the goblins of the forest being terrified, and animals becoming dark abominations and stuff like that. Just so to remind the players that this threat of the darkening of Davokar is unexplained. We don't know. Of course, the Iron Pact says this. Everybody has an idea on what is darkening the setting, but actually, no one knows the truth. And I used my knowledge of the later episodes to tease very, very spoilery elements, but in a cryptic fashion, about the throne, about Ambal Seba, about like the island with the time, the landfall islands. So all of that is in there, and it's like it's a bunch. I don't know what they're going to think about it, but the main message got through. They know that there's a lot of balls in the air, and that to find this, I said outright. I said, when you receive these visions, you have the feeling that Symbar is dangerous, but in Symbar and in the under the darkness of Davokar, you might find the key to understanding why the darkness is growing, and maybe stop it. So that's how I try to, get my players on the right track. So let's get back to the Foundry. So what I did is that the first part with Old Torangal, they met the man. They were a bit more, even though I stated that Mirizin was a friend of Torangal, it was like a pretty slow process to try to gain his trust and then ask him a few questions. And I slowly brought them into trying to learn a bit about the lore through this guy, but they didn't really use it that much. They had their plan and they wanted to go to the witch and find the witch. So they convinced him to go down from his island, the Fire Island. So we can see here, they were on an island here, and they went with the boat with Torangal all the way down to Jaakar. And when they got to Jaakar, I only had this image, but I described what I put in my heptabase. So, I had, there you go. So I had a nice little description there. So I used this to run the whole scene. And then when they were ready, actually I put the house with the rangers on one end of this beach, and on the other end there was a small shipyard. There were all the taverns, and I described all of that. And they decided to just go in the middle, stay low profile, find a captain, and they found my captain, this guy here. Let's zoom in on him. So at first I thought he'd be a Zarek too, but since his portrait is quite different from the other guys, I decided to make this man a man from the Archipelago. So it's a series of islands that are south of Alberetar. I think it's southwest in the sea, the actual sea. So I sort of created a backstory for him on the spot, because his name, Paranfol, I think I called him, is a bit weird. So yeah, I wanted to make him a bit more exotic. They had a good negotiation with Roal. Roel comes from this here. So on this paper, you can see that there's Roel right there, like this. He's leathers and felts, stinky. You've got Morozina under Roel, a bit lower, barbarian female names. That's the sorcerer, the witch, with the thick braids. So I created her pretty much on the fly too. I'll talk about it later. And Meseba on the other side on this side, this is the one. So this girl here, so she didn't really participate very much in the end, but she's there. So yeah, so this paper, these names that I always have with me with little descriptions, super helpful. I really recommend, highly recommend. So they negotiated with him, and then we went straight into the boat. So the boat, this is the boat map. It's a bit anachronistic. I had prepared my hammer eel encounter. You might remember that. Didn't use it in the end. I'm saving it maybe for later when they'll be around Yeferon. The reason why I didn't use it is that I wanted to speed up plot. So because I realized when I looked at the map, we made some measurements. They started going on the lake, nice descriptions, the sun going down, everything. It was a very nice touristy part of the story. And I just realized that you can see that actually they can't really do that in one day. It would be a bit pushing it. So what I did is that I had them leave Jaakar and stop on this island here for the night. So it was an island. I said that there was a few little shacks for fishermen, a lot of fishermen drying their fish on the on racks in front of their little houses on a rocky island. And so some stayed in the boat, some went on the island, and they had the night there. And they spoke, like I had the captain come up to them and offer to give them more service, because they paid what he asked right away without negotiating. So he thought, here's some good money. So they had a chat with him, and they hired him for the whole endeavor. And they also talked about, with the captain, I plugged one of the rumors about the archers from Agrela arriving in Cône. This idea that there's armies in the south building up, I just put it there. And then next day they leave. So I was trying to really speed this part to have them arrive here in a village that I invented on the spot. It's the village of the Zarek people. It's the biggest village. I called it the village of the Great Bay. So there's a nice bay in there where the water is calm, and that's where they have their main village. And I had some just a picture that's not super exciting, and it's really dark and depressing. So I had to tell my players that it's not exactly that. But I just wanted to have them be able to see barbarian houses, what it can look like, saying that those are very rudimentary. There are bigger ones also, but still it's big toit de chaume. So it's, don't know how to say it in English, when it's all like hay roofs, and sometimes with growing herb on it, and a few bigger buildings, bigger houses. And they talked to a few guards that sort of checked that they were okay. They were told that they couldn't walk in the village with weapons, only daggers were allowed. And Bartho went to see his witch. And so they were afraid that there might be, they were actually really paranoid about the fact that the rangers were following Bartho and Black Cloaks, and that people were getting killed left and right for the information. So they thought maybe they already have agents in this barbarian village. They were really paranoid. And he was asking, okay, I'm going to go see the witch. I know her personally. I'll spend the night with her, and tomorrow morning we can leave to the island. And they said, oh yeah, but you want to really go alone? It's dangerous. And so they had a few people follow Bartho, and the guards followed them all the way to the witch's house. And at this point, I had to completely improvise, because in my prep I hadn't prepped this village properly, so I had to wing it. What else happened? Well, the fact that I checked my notes about the clans, I had the element of the axes that they throw, the tridents, so I had a few elements to play off of to give some flavor. I always like the barbarian village experience when you're not an enemy. You come in and you're a curiosity when you're Ambrian, and the kids come to see you, and I described that kind of ambience. And then when they went to this witch, I had to create her on the fly. That's why I used this little page here. And what my thought process was, because the description I have here is older with thick braids and a basket. So again, always, it's always a bit sketchy. But the idea of this is to have something to feed your brain and to find ideas on the fly easily. And it worked, because the thick braids, I described that she had big, like a lot of red hair, all in braids and rolled in the back. And then I thought, okay, this is a spiritual island. She's a spiritualist. She has like all sorts of silver trinkets, jewelry hanging in her hair, around her neck, on her ears. She's like a bit of a fortune teller look. She's a nice round and hearty face, because Bartho is seduced her, and they have a little history together. So she's like a woman that likes life, and she had, because of these things that I put in her hair, then when the characters went around this house, I said, okay, she's a bit of a weirdo. She's a bit outside of the city, of the village. so I described this place where the woods were chopped down by lumberjacks, and in this area there was just a little clump of trees that's left with her house in the middle, and that's where she lived. So when they got there, they circled this little clump of trees to try to make sure everything was okay. I mean, the PCs that were outside. During that time, Bartho was inside the house with the lady. And because I described these this jewelry in her hair, then I decided that she had actually like a small fireplace, forge fireplace, like a little, I don't know how to say it in English. It's a thing to heat up precious metal, basically. So it's like a little forge with a hole, and you put a plate, something that you can heat to a very high temperature, and you put your silver in there and it melts. So she had that outside, like her chimney was one part inside, one part outside, and the outside part was her crafting place. So I described all that. I described that she had a lot of these semi-transparent fabric, because she puts them up for her veils, because the spiritualist, I had remembered, luckily, that spiritualists have these masks, these veils as masks in this world. So I just described these elements. I gave her a felt outfit, a felt robe with like lozenges of different colors, so it's a bit like scales from a fish, because I wanted her to have a very lively, very colorful, shiny, gaudy look. But all of that was improvisation, and the thick braids led to the clump, led to the jewelry, and the basket just gave me this idea of arts and craft, that she's crafting a lot of stuff. And for the dress, the felt and the lozenges, it's just a general inspiration that I have for all the barbarians in Symbaroum. When I did a little bit of research, I tried to find different kinds of looks that I like, and I just keep them in my mind when I describe characters from the clans. So they went to this witch's house, and the next morning everything was fine because I was speeding up the plot. I didn't throw anything at them. They left with her on the boat, and they went to Yeferon. That was where it got a bit complicated for me. Luckily, I managed it. So Yeferon is there, it's hidden there. You can see it. Okay, so they had quite a few hours of sailing to go. And I described, the impact of this witch on the other sailors, and they were checking to see if how the Zarek sailors were doing. Were they scared? And they didn't tell. They told the captain that they were going in the islands, but they didn't mention Yeferon at first. And when they got closer, then Bartho told them, okay, we need to tell the captain, and the witch, Morozina, needs to stand beside him at the helm to make sure that he stays on course, because the enchantments could make this go awry. So everybody was a bit tense, and that's when I created something out of thin air to make a satisfying climactic scene for the end of the session. And I wanted also to have something worthwhile, like a challenge, basically, to get to Yeferon, because they had learned in the last session, and even I think in the one before, of the legend of the Queen Yasmial, and the fact that the island was sent to the spirit world, they were punished by the gods or something like that. And so they had big expectations on what this will be like. So just having them, just describing that they go straight and they get there, that would have been sort of a letdown. It would have really killed the awe and the majesty of it all. So what I decided to do, first of all, luckily, I found this song. You can't see it, but I'll just play with the wiggly thing. See the countdown song here on the right? That song is a build up. It goes from really low to really high, and it's pretty fun. with the ambience of the sailing ship. So we had a good audio ambience for the scene. This really helped like elevate tension. And I thought, okay, the enchantment that will stop them from going there is something that is going to hurt Resolute. The enchantment is sort of pushing you out, scaring you in a way. And so what I did is I described that they went between the two big islands. It was Vaer and Hainan or something like that. That was the first step. I had them all roll Resolute, everyone. And if they failed, they subtracted the difference from their Resolute. So if you have 15 Resolute, you roll 18, you subtract 3 from your Resolute, you're down to 12. And I did 5 rounds of this because I thought, okay, I need to push it. It needs to get hard, and every step needs to have like an evolution in the description. So it doesn't feel just, okay, I'm just going to make you roll until you fail. So the first roll was between the two big islands of Vaer and Hainan. Second roll, they were entering just at the end of this channel or this strait between the big islands. They saw tons of smaller islands, really craggy, like teeth sticking out of the lake, and they were wondering, okay, it's almost like in French we say récif, like rocks that you just smash your boat against. And they thought that, okay, this is not good. We're just going in there, and the captain didn't really know, okay, where there's so many islands, and she was directing them. So just when they entered the small island section, that was a second roll, then they had the beginning of the mist rising. That's the third roll. Then they saw in the small islands where she wanted them to go was straight into one small island, that like they were going right straight for the island and going to crash into it. That was the fourth roll. And then the fifth roll was the mist becomes completely, like you can't see through it. It's opaque. So just before they smash into the smaller island, they can't see anything. What happened is that this nice man here, this nice barbarian that has a very bad Resolute, he freaked out at the beginning. And later on, Melian, the changeling, also freaked out. But basically every time that we did one step or in one roll, I had a few rounds of combat where the barbarian tried, he was over there, he tried to get to the helm and change course. And he was, becoming more and more panicked. And they had to sort of jump on him. First, the goblin convinced him to take a potion that would be good for him, and succeeded his persuade. And so he drank that. It was a drone dew. He succeeded his strong, so he's still up, but a bit like groggy and confused, and still went for the helm. Then he was physically contained by Micariol and the Templar Le Demé. But then as they were neutralizing him at the last second, it was like the last roll or the one before, and they could have missed the island. And so then Melian panics and somebody else needs to tackle her. So it was a suitably dramatic entry into Yeferon. And the Yeferon image that I don't have right now with me is very nice, with a little boat and everything. So I showed them that, just holding the book up. And then I went to this map, the map that you all know. But what they're seeing is just this. So they're not even seeing the larger part of the... I don't know how to use Fog of War in Foundry. So when they look, they only see what the radius of the token shows them. But anyhow, I described, the rocky outcroppings, the old watchtower, crumbled watchtower, and some walls, some defensive walls. And then later, further back, some buildings that look like an old ancient city. And, everybody was in awe. The barbarians on the boat that actually did really good rolls for the Resolute, they were in awe also. And we entered this city, and that's where we stopped. And I guess to finish off this video, the point that I want to make, first of all, it's just thoughts, actually. It's just, I don't know. I like thinking about what makes our job as GMs more efficient, easier, and to just better understand the dynamics of a TTRPG, to try to create prep that is conducive to that and that just helps you out to go where you want to go as a GM. And in this case, if I just do like a little analysis of this from my perspective, definitely having little things that are really simple that give me food for thought so I can spin off things on the cuff, that is super useful because it saves my ass so many times. I think that less is more. I think that when I write my next notes, I'll probably try to put it even less wordy. Try to put it in a way that is really easy for me to remember. And I will use, let's go back. I'll show you, since I have these little things here that you can open to have more information. I think that what I will do is I will keep the first line of every element like very cryptic, almost like just a note that to stir up my memory of my notes, and have the actual details that I can open up like this. So when I look at my notes, I can just see like big bullet points that are really simple, and that if I know my stuff, I don't really need to open that. But when I read my notes before the session, like if I just take 15 minutes to read through my notes before we start, then I can open these, read through, okay, I remember, close them, and then I'm ready to go. Because that's one element. It just needs to be in my face when I GM. Second element is really the organic rhythm of a session. Like in real time with your friends from 8 to midnight or 5 to whatever. I think I have to get better at really organizing my notes and my mental preparedness. I need to have little tools to sort of up the ante or not for all the different phases of the session. It's not the story, it's the session, because that's the most important part. I mean, anybody who does actual play on the web, they always have a very, they have a layout of what they want to be able to do in their 2.5 hours or 3 hours. And so they need to accelerate when needed to get to these points. And that's a bit formulaic and very railroady sometimes. But I think that sometimes we need to have a bit of that mindset too, but it's just that we always have the flexibility to not do it, to not use it, because we're not live streaming. We're just playing with. So if we're having fun, we're having fun. So why should we change anything? So we play in 1 hour to 1.5 hour blocks, and then we take a 15-minute break or a half-hour break if we eat. So I have usually 3 or 4 of those blocks. That will be the game. So I could already make my notes for each block, to have a bit like I did when I put the event of the eagle in the sky. I did use that when they were crossing the lake. That was in one element that sort of made the traveling more interesting. Gave them a bit of lore about this witch. They made some rolls and they succeeded, so I gave them some lore. So you have I give them some lore about the legends of the creatures of the lake, that the hammer eels they heard about. So there was some foreshadowing building during the crossing of the lake. So these elements that I have there, like the eel attack, for example, that I had, I could have used it instead of the crossing of the veil to Yeferon for some action at the end of the session. But basically, it's things that I have in my prep, and I feel the mood at the table. And if I see that things are going down, the players are sort of, okay, what's happening now? They don't really know. They don't really feel they've role played enough. They want to, go to some concrete stuff. Then you need to have action scenes. Let's call them like that, action scenes. Or you can have like the eagle, some lore drop thing. So some event, some phenomenon that is interesting enough to have it happen, and then they can make some rolls, try to understand what's going on. There's some like exploration and awe elements. I have to not note this down, but so yeah, so have some potential action scenes, potential exploration and awe for each of these 1.5 hour blocks that of my prep. That's what I think I need to do going forward, because when you GM, you well, let me get back to that in a minute, because I'm going to forget something here. This because it's just my little quick plug, because you know that I do not have a Patreon or anything like that. What I did is I wrote a little adventure called Playing with Goblins. If you want to support the channel, you can head on through to this drive-through RPG, and in this little adventure you will find a complete village, goblin village. I don't have the map of the village in the preview, unfortunately, but it's a really nice map of a village beside a pond with a waterfall. There's interesting traps and stuff around the village. There's an interesting story with a scared troll and a very evil and dangerous human lord of the area. So I think you can really check it out. You can see that the way I presented it, I always have a bit of text, like snooping about, little bit of text and then some bullet points. And that's just my first attempt at making adventures that are really easy to run. So it's like a hybrid. I took the standard Symbaroum presentation and I modified it just a bit to try to have it a bit more easy to use for everyone. But it can go further than that. And I think I need to write a follow-up to this story, and I want to completely try something new for the design and try to have something that is more up to what I'm hoping to use when I GM printed material. So that will be for some other videos, but there you go. That was the plug. So let's get back to the idea that I was about to say, is that when you GM, you need some role-playing elements and you also need some game elements. And the game elements depends on the system that you're using, of course. But like in Forbidden Lands, just going through the travel rules and your equipment and your consumables and all that, the crafting rules and everything, that's a mini game, and so that's a gaming element. And these elements are really important because most players like them. Some of them are true theater kids that just want to role play all the time, all night long, and that don't care for any gaming elements. Like the minimum is the best for them. And they can play some really simple rules-light games and they'll find exactly what they were looking for. But I'd say that for most players, they like the gaming part of the TTRPG, and so you need to have some prepared for them. In a typical D&D session, the DMs, they prepare encounters. So you have a fight, you have another fight and another fight, and it gets really boring after a while, because fights are always, you can make them interesting, of course. There's always tons of ways to do that, and you should, but it's easier to just put some monsters on a map and let's fight it out. So unfortunately, that's a lot of TTRPG experience is that for a lot of people. And so in printed material, I expect to have tools to get me out of that rut and give me interesting gaming stuff to do. And I think for my prep, I need to do the same thing. This skill challenge that I made up on the fly for the end scene, basically, if you're wondering, when they got to 0 resolute, they weren't broken or dead or anything like that. That's when they freaked out and they had to act against to try to get the ship off course. So that was the little mini game there. I need to prepare these elements, and I need to have them be mechanically interesting and sturdy, because a mini game is fun when the mechanics are fun and are engaging in a gamey sort of way. And also, like, this one was really simple. It was not complicated, but it puts the spotlight on characters with a strong resolute. So you have this idea too, that through mechanics, you can highlight the strengths and weaknesses of PCs. So it's a very good tool to make the players feel good about their build, or bad in certain circumstances. But it makes a scene where different characters will shine because different characters are suited or ill-suited to the scene. So it's a very important element. It's helpful, and it can lead to RP down the line too. So it's not like you can't RP when you're doing a gaming part. So I just need I'll end on that. Maybe you can tell me in the comments what kind of mini games that are really easy to implement that you can put into a session or in notes. Because, for example, I'll just blurt out a few, and maybe you can bounce ideas off of what I'm saying. As I've said in my previous another video where I was rambling, chases. There's the whole action scene genre has to be fully developed for TTRPGs. So chases, in a cyberpunk game, some hacking thing is going to be important, or defusing bombs, some sneaking, but make those sneaking and infiltration scenes mechanically interesting. Because yes, you can do it like the Blades in the Dark way, where it's really more about the narration and less about the mechanics. But I find that having some fun mechanics is also another good way to do it. It's completely different, but I think it will appeal to a lot of people. So I would like that. Some sailing, some boarding and attacking, but always very simple. I need mechanics that are just evocative and simple and very specific to that scene that I'm running. So it's a bit like rulings before rules. I don't need rules that will be applied in every chase possible. I need rules for that chase, or I need rules for that naval battle. Well, there's always some, the feast scenes. If you want to gamify a bit, you don't want to roleplay 1,000 encounters with 1,000 NPCs and 1,000 small talks. So how can you make it interesting to describe how the PCs are navigating a social event and either being discreet or not, and what's their goal, what are they working? So really the skill challenge idea from D&D, but adapted, made a bit more surprising, not always the same mechanic. Because for D&D, the skill challenge, okay, it's a nice thing, but this mechanical way of dealing with a situation in game will always be the same. Oh, yes, the players will say, oh, I'll help by doing this and that. But you all get the feeling that, okay, you're just finding some kind of little story elements to justify why you're going to roll on your best skill. So it's not, I don't know, I don't feel it's conducive to really creative, and the game is not good enough, That's what I feel. The gaming appetite in me is not really satisfied by that solution. Some action scenes. I need some action scene tools. So maybe sometimes it can be some kind of lair actions, like in D&D, to have places where the PCs will go through, and I have a list of things that can happen to them. That is the environment doing it to them. That's another nice way to add some gaming elements to a scene that maybe is just traveling. I'll put that in my checklist. Action scenes and lore and awe scenes. Exploration and awe scenes. And of course the RP is always there. That's not a problem. So, but yeah, you also have RP. So let's say there's three, those three pillars. And we'll see what happens in my next prep video. As I said, the next one, I will do my prep first, and I'll just do a little video to talk about it afterwards. And what else? That's pretty much it for today. So thanks a lot to be on this channel, to watch the channel. If you like it, well, leave a like and a comment, share. That helps out too. And I do that completely as a non-professional YouTuber. I have no goal of being a YouTuber, but I would like to maybe write more adventures because I truly appreciate that, and I would like to write adventures that will make GMs like me that run a lot of printed material, I'm not a homebrewer, happy. Documents that are easy to run, easy to read, to learn, rich, flavorful, but easy to run in the end. There you go. That's my goal. Okay, so thanks a lot and see you soon. Bye-bye.